Hi everybody, thank you very much for joining us on this additional podcast with Together Against Cancer. I'm Valerie, Centre Manager here at Together Against Cancer, and I am joined by the amazing Kam. Welcome, Kam.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And you're from Crystal Healing Works. You're based in Birstall in Leicester. Please do share a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. I must put the UK on the end of that. Crystal Healing Works UK.
UK,
If
yes.
you're looking for me, yes. Crystal Healing Works UK. What do? I do crystal surgery. I operate on the energy field to help with your energy bodies, ultimately your chakras. Everything I do stems from a reading from the chakras, because ultimately they're going to tell us whether we have any imbalances, areas of focus, areas where you need to give yourself attention mentally, emotionally, physically, or even in your etheric, your spiritual body. So, yeah.
Okay, so you've mentioned the energy body, spiritual body. For people out there that have no clue about what you're on about, how would you describe it in very simple words?
So in simple words, we have, imagine big cogs. We have 7 of them spinning in our physical body. They're like energy vortexes. So the root chakra will go down into the ground, into Mother Earth, and then the crown chakra will go up. The others come forward. So imagine if they're cogs and one cog is not spinning, this energy vortex, it means the others either have to compensate and work harder, and if a few of them in succession are not spinning, you're not going to feel very well at all. These energy vortexes known as chakras. The chakras are in the rainbow colours. So you can go from beetroot red from the lower chakras, going up to orange, yellow, pink, green, blue, indigo, violet, and the platinum rays, the higher up we go. So key thing here is imagine that them rainbow colours, they then make up our bodies, our energy bodies. So what we've got is your physical body. Physical body will be, we can see it, we do something for it, nutrition, we think of that. We think of physical activities, exercise that we're doing. What we tend not to think of is the second layer of the energy field, very close to the energy body, that's your emotional body. Then we have a bit further away, the mental body, and then we have our etheric body, so your causal etheric body as well. So the indication's going to be, I always say, it's a expression I use, is my job is to align your chakras, get them balanced, help you with the physical, mental, emotional that's going on. Because ultimately, we want you to be, your outer layer of your energy field, to be like water off a duck's back. So if we think about a duck on a rainy day in the lake, the rainwater bounces off its feathers. So our energy field should be like the feathers of a duck.
For things to just bounce off you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
and you're no longer so susceptible to what's going on the outside.
That's right, Valerie, yeah. So here we have people dealing with a tremendous amount of, a multitude of different things they could be dealing with in their life. Having energy work done and ensuring you are balanced and aligned within your chakras is going to help you cope better with whatever it is you've got going on in your life. The first indication will be your chakras that will go off balance, and then you are going to have dis-ease within your body the longer you leave yourself out of balance.
Okay. Well, from personal experience, I mean, although I'm the manager at Together Against Cancer currently, I've not always been a manager, but we met 4 years ago, and I found you on social media. And from there, when I first invited you to come around to the charity, we could sense straight away that we were going to connect and be able to work together. And that week, I came to you for my first session ever. And at the time, I was going through a divorce. I was really stressed with it. And I remember feeling like I was going to blow up if anybody had said boo to me and upset me some more, I literally was going to lash out. And I thought, that's not me. I'm not feeling right. And I know I need some help. So from meeting you and hearing the wonderful stories that you shared on the day about how you could support people, I thought, yes, I need to give this a go. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so grateful. That first session you ever did on me, it felt like you'd lifted, some heavy weights that I'd been carrying off my shoulders, like off my feet. And I literally felt that afterwards, as you saying that it's water off a dog's back. I feel like I've been able to cope with everything that goes on in life just that way. And occasionally life just gets a bit harder. Life is lifing, people. And recently I had another occasion where I felt I was not right, and I knew that something was off, but it's not something that I could do physically, and I knew it was energy work that was needed. So I came to see you, and as soon as I lay on that bed and you checked and I had 5 chakras that were not spinning, I was like, no wonder I feel awful. So it really shows me how important it is for us as people, men, women, whoever you are, whatever your conditions are, however you feel, everybody needs a bit of maintenance. And it's a question of the depth of maintenance that you can work with. But everybody needs a bit of a top up in terms of, or a little bit of a push or help with your energy work. And especially if you're going to give and help others as well, you've got to be right to be able to do that for others. So your work has been amazing for me. It's given me the strength and the energy and the resilience to be able to do the work that we do at the charity and push for the charity to grow the way it has done over the past few years. So thank you very much.
You're very
welcome. Every session that you do on me has been wonderful, and I'm grateful every time because I can feel the benefit, and I can feel that I would not be able to do what I do these days if it wasn't for what you've done.
And we can talk a bit about what would have been going on there. I mean, I know you'd come to me with having gone through something traumatic, something stressful, something that totally...
Well, that was recent as well, let alone the childhood trauma that you've helped me dealt with. And it was much deeper than that. But
So if we look at what I would have done there, in assessing your chakras, and you said you had got 5 chakras that were out of balance, I will be looking for, if it's the root chakra, that will be associated, so beetroot red in colour, associated with safety, security, stability. Financial can come into that because that provides you with the safety and the security. And when those things are threatened in your life, then the root chakra can go off balance, and you're going to have a lot of fear, because fear will be linked to that. It's the blocker of the root chakra. Second chakra, sacral chakra, orange in colour, that's reproduction, sexual, a lot of feelings we hold there. Shame is a great blocker for that. If it's your hormones, that will sit in that second chakra. And then third chakra, solar plexus, yellow in colour. This is your will, your power, self-esteem, self-confidence. All those things stem from this area here.
The gut, isn't it?
Yes, just by the rib cage. Heart chakra, your ability to be able to receive love and give love. Intimacy comes into here. So oftentimes people will come to me and say, I'm just not feeling, to be intimate. It can be the hormones, but it can also be the heart chakra being out of balance. Sadness, grief, we'll hold that there. Throat chakra, sky blue in colour, literally like the sky on a sunny day, that lovely blue with the clouds. And in fact, when I repair or rebuild the throat chakra, that is the image I will hold, is like intricate lace, like clouds against a blue sky. That is your ability. Are you being your true, authentic self? So are you speaking your truth? If you're not speaking your truth, am I being kind? Am I being compassionate? When you're not doing those things, then what happens with chakras is they'll first start doing this. This is an indication that they want to be out of here. But under stress, they can restrict. So they go inwards to make you feel safe. And then in extreme cases, that can close. You've got to imagine when a chakra's closed, your energy then from up here is no longer able to flow down. You've got a blockage there. You're going to be in your headspace. And then you've got your third eye chakra, which is your I see, and then your crown chakra, which is I know, the knowing. So that's a little bit about the chakras. So going
Did
back
you mention the green one?
the green is the heart chakra. So actually, it doesn't matter if some people use pink stones or pink. Pink is the heart, and it goes to the higher heart, the thymus area, higher heart. That is green before it goes into blue to the throat.
Okay.
Hence why some people will say the heart chakra is pink or green. It can be either or.
Just to clarify for those that are used to those colours.
Absolutely. So in that case, because of what you've been going through, for me, looking at which of your chakras it would have been, it would be a case of, okay, emotional balancing was one of the biggest things you required on that day. And actually, not just for that particular example for yourself, our emotional body is one of the biggest areas where we require support and help with. I'm talking children, male, female, doesn't matter. We all require emotional support. And one of the key things there, Val, is because we hold emotions within our organs. So if we can learn how to cope with what emotion that is, or understand what emotion is carried where, we can then help ourselves. So for example, the liver, we will hold anger there. Then I would do a liver flush for someone. The liver has 3 tiny chakras itself within the liver, and sometimes
that's another concept that a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people know about those chakras and the colors. You've got a depiction of that there on your logo, but each organ has its own little
chakras,
spinning
absolutely.
vortexes, chakras, and more than one. You just mentioned the liver's got 3 mini ones.
Absolutely. And if any one of those 3 are sluggish, or let's say you've got 2 out of 3, your liver's not going to be in a good place. Now, the physical symptoms will develop, but before the physical do, you're going to be feeling anger. You have anger about something or someone. We could go to the gallbladder. We've got bitterness. We've got the spleen, which is extreme worry. So each of the organs do hold the emotions, and it's about us dealing with those emotions and letting those go, genuinely.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that's the key message we're trying to pass on to people, whether that's me at the charity or you with your clients, is that, yes, emotions are out there, and allow yourself to feel those emotions. We're not asking you to repress them. More on the contrary, actually.
Yes.
Feel this emotion, acknowledge them, but then let them go.
Yes.
That means you're not holding on to them anymore. Because it's the holding on to or suppressing that can create physical...
Yes, yeah.
manifestations in the future. And that's what I've seen with people that are coming through the door with us at the charity. Not everybody, but because I don't get to go in depth into their psyche. But there's a few examples I can come up with where I've seen people that are still very upset and angry about something that's happened in their lives. And then a few years later, boom, they've got a diagnosis. And it's because they've been... going through all this issue or whatever's happened, this trauma, because everybody goes through trauma over and over again in their heads, and they've just allowed that to just get stronger and stronger, and resentment is major. So the anger and the liver, I can definitely decide on that.
Absolutely. And I can give through some examples of where you've said about the psyche. I love getting into that psyche part, and sometimes I don't always know the entire background story, but in doing a chakra reading, which is what I do at the beginning of each session, it gives me a good indication that, hey, there's some either hormonal imbalance, or there's some, if it's the heart place, there's some sadness or it's grief. You can feel that as well, because I'm an empathic healer, so I'll feel some of what's going on, which means, no, I don't. And I know people will have this question, which is always a question that follows when I say I'm an empathic healer, that must be hard on you. No, I feel great when I'm doing healing. And here's one of the key things, and I'll explain that because I think it'll be beneficial for those of you out there that understand energy, or you begin to feel energy. You've been into environments or been around someone and you're feeling a certain way. The key thing here is not to absorb, and I'll give a key tip to help with that. So when we know our own energy field, So I know what I feel like me.
Mm-hmm.
And often enough, it's a good time to gauge on that after you've been meditating. And so I know what my energy is. So I now know when I go somewhere else, that is not mine. And how I went through learning about this was when I start feeling, let's say someone with, my eyes start itching before someone comes in, and 5 minutes before, I'm unable to itch my eyes, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? And someone walks in and says, hey, look at my eyes, I think I've got conjunctivitis. And I'm like, okay, that's why my eyes were itching. And then on another occasion, I'm working on someone's foot, and they volunteer and say, hey, this morning I stepped on a plug socket. Thank goodness the prongs were the other way around. And I was feeling like I was standing on a tennis ball until this person volunteered that information. So I was like, okay, I've got to get a hold of this.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the key thing. When you know your own energy field, anything else you know is not yours. Once that information comes in, the key thing is to say, thank you very much, off you go. So almost thank the universe, source, the other person, whoever you want to thank. But give thanks, because that was free information for you. You can either choose to absorb it or choose to acknowledge it's not mine.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, off you go.
And that's the work that every single therapist out there, nurses, it doesn't have to be energy healing. Anybody who's out there supporting others, and this is something for a tip that I've learned quite a few years ago, is that you've got to protect your own energy as well as it being able to just say thank you very much. And a lot of therapists actually go and wash their hands at the end. And that's a simple thing. And that's just the ritual of just letting that energy go through the water.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's why it's there as well. It's not just the hygiene side of things. It's also there as a cleansing ritual for that energy.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Once you start feeling energy, you can either choose to be like a sponge and soak that up, or you can choose to turn your gift into your superpower, into your strength. And that is knowing what you are, what your energy feels like, and then when anything else comes in, thank you for letting me know. Off you go. And use that as your gift. So then examples will be, I can open a door to a client, and all of a sudden I'll get at my headspace, which is like, okay, mentally they require some help. If it's in other places, it's like, okay, they've got something going on there. Might not necessarily know instantly exactly what that is, but it gives you a good idea of what's going on. And you mentioned earlier about when someone's going through something and they themselves can overthink it. Well, that's a real thing, right? We have the mind and then we have the brain. Two separate things. The brain is the more physical part, where it's your brain waves. But the mind, that monkey mind, and how do we stop that overthinking? Because when you're out of imbalance elsewhere, and let's say you're unable to speak and your throat chakra's blocked, it's emotionally related, so your second chakra, your sacral's blocked, your energy's going to be building up in the middle here. You're likely then to get anxiety and feel anxious. Because you're unable to express, that energy's then stuck up there, or your energy's then staying in your headspace. So we have I do a wonderful technique called quietening the mind. Very powerful. And this will focus on the chakras, which we call bilateral chakras. So anything we've got two of within the physical body. So for example, the eyes, ears, the nostrils, your lungs, your adrenals, your kidneys, ovaries in women, and those bilateral chakras, we can adjust those, and that will stop the overthinking. And we've got to think about, well, why do we overthink, and why is it those chakras? Well, because we take information in, we see it, we smell it, we hear it, we speak it. So those sense organs are bringing in information externally.
Makes sense, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know you've done that many times on me, and every time I feel like I can think clearly. It's not overcrowded in there anymore. We talk about what you're doing and how it helps people, but before even people come to you, I guess they've got to realise what's going on. and the first signs, I'm in tune with my body now. I got used to understanding where my energy's at. That's why I come to you as soon as I feel like it's not right. But there's a lot of people out there, and this is going to include cancer patients, obviously that they've gone to the stage, they've got a cancer diagnosis, so there's definitely something that's not right. For the people out there that have not been to see you and not familiar with it, what kind of symptoms do you think they're feeling right now and they should come to you for help?
Okay, so if we've got someone, and if we're talking specifically about cancer patients, and
Both.
Okay, both. Okay, so this will apply to anybody. If you're feeling energetically drained, you're feeling lethargic, you've got no get up and go, no motivation, you're probably feeling a lot of fatigue, foggy in your headspace, absolutely, do come and see me. These things will be, there'll be a bit of emotional stuff going on there, but most certainly it'll have something to do with your endocrine system.
Okay.
Now, one of the techniques I will always do for a first-time client is an endocrine rebalance. The reason being, your endocrine, for us women, it's our ovaries, for men it's their prostate. We all have...
So it's all the hormones, right?
It's all your glands, and actually these glands, we've actually got a gland behind each chakra. So you've got your prostate for the men, the ovaries for the women, we've got the adrenals, we've got the thymus, the thyroid, the pituitary pineal gland. And these, for me, the best analogy I can give for this is, if any one of those aren't working, it's a bit like having a mobile phone, having the charge lead, the plug, and the socket on the wall. That phone, nothing is happening to it, even once you've connected the lead, until that power is turned on. So then you're going to have action at the phone. And this is very similar to our glands. If any one of those are not working, it's a circuit. We must have those glands connected and talking to each other. So how I would go about doing that would be giving your body the minerals they require through the crystals, and then placing my hands, once I've connected that circuit, and you'll almost feel gurgles happening where stuck energy's been released or glands kick into action. I'll almost feel like a whoosh, a gentle whoosh. I'm not saying it's a gentle whoosh of energy surging at the back of the head as it goes up to the pineal gland. And always, having done that for a client, they're always going to feel more energetic. And just talking about the minerals, I've actually brought one in because sometimes we look at crystals and we think they're these shiny, collectible things, and some of them are, but then some of the ones I use, like one crystal that is really vital for when I'm doing the endocrine rebalance, is this crystal here.
What's that one?
So it looks like a cowpack, and
it's a rock.
It's a rock, but if I turn this over, and you can almost see the colour there, it's orange, absolutely full of iodine. And of course, what do we need for the thyroid is the iodine.
Yeah.
So it's not that I'm placing any crystals, I'm specifically putting crystals for each of the glands, the minerals that are going to be given to that particular gland, so that I can then connect that circuit and get their endocrine system rebalanced.
But just to remind everybody, you're not actually physically touching the body much. I mean, the hands, the feet, maybe the bottom of the legs, and then the bottom of your arms, but you don't actually ask the person to get undressed. So when you say you use those crystals, it's literally hovering over the body, and somehow, miracle of nature, that helps those glands to get the right minerals.
And that's correct. The crystals have their own vibrational frequency. They're all made of different minerals. So as a result, they have to just be in our energy field. And there's different skills within what I do, which is crystal surgery. It's a deeper form of crystal healing techniques, which then form a procedure. And a procedure would be like the endocrine rebalance, or let's say anti-anxiety. And if we think about it, some of the crystals I'll work in the energy field and place on them. But crystals also work in your environment, because many of your listeners out here will probably have crystals, and there'll be a crystal for their room to change the energy within a room. And Here in crystal surgery, of course, I will do a layout, and generally 8 to 18 inches above the energy field is where I'm working. And then we can go on and ask, well, who will require this? So endocrine rebalance, everybody above the age of, let's say, 9 years old will probably require an endocrine rebalance.
Okay, that's a lot of people.
The reason why I say 9 years old is because these days children are going through adolescence a lot sooner.
Yeah.
That age is young girls will start their monthlies. Boys need it as well. For them going through adolescence, one of the clear signs I notice, and in a few adults, is their skin clears up if they're getting acne, because now we've balanced their hormones.
Mm-hmm.
We've given their body what they require. The other group of people will be anybody who's had any cancer-related therapies or treatment, because their immune system's going to be impacted, especially if they've had chemo. And I'll go on to speak about the immune system in just a moment. And then their endocrine system's absolutely going to require endocrine rebalance, especially if it's an estrogen-producing cancer. And then the other group of people will be menopause, when women are perimenopause, going through menopause and afterwards. And it's not just women that require this. Men will get to a certain point in their life as well. So yes, everybody requires an endocrine rebalance.
But there's many more techniques that you do.
Yes.
Endocrine rebalance is just one of them.
That's just one of them. So the other one, which will be the lymphatic system. So, and one of the things, the stones out the ground, honestly, we often overlook their healing properties. So when I'm doing a lymphatic boost, your immune boost, I'm actually using just normal copper.
Yeah.
And often enough, we will ask, where did copper, our ancestors, they wore copper around their wrists, around their ankles. And that was one of the reasons why. They probably didn't know why, or they probably know it might help with the immune system, but actually it really does help with the immune system. And that then brings me on to, if we look back at where did the healing properties of crystals come from and why jewellery came about. The ancient civilizations, they knew this. They would collect gold. And as they're collecting the gold, let's say if they had inflammation in their body, they'd hold gold against it and they'd notice that inflammation would go down. If they had, let's say, an open gash or a wound, they'd use ruby, and ruby would fuse the skin back together. And if they had aches and pains, they'd use emerald, and that really got rid of tension or muscular aches and pains. And this is some of the I'll use those crystals in that order within crystal surgery. But of course, you couldn't walk around if you had a headache, a tummy ache, and an ankle ache, holding crystals in all these different places. So that's how, if they had a tummy ache, they developed a belt to put the gems in. If they had a headache, they developed a crown and put the gems into the crown. Inflammation of the ears, they'd earrings. Arthritis, they'd put rings
and bracelets.
And that's how jewellery came about. Isn't that interesting?
It is, yeah.
We often don't realise that. So going back to the lymphatic system, there's examples I've got of where I've had and this is a family member who came on a visit, and she'd come from out of town, and she was talking about how she'd got pains in her fingers, and it was in her arm, and more recently it had moved to her armpit. And much younger than me, probably early 30s, and her consultant wanted to put her on tablets for rheumatoid arthritis, and it wasn't going to be for a short period of time. This was going to be for life. And she was debating on whether to take this medication. And when she told me she'd got the pain then, and I remembered she'd said about having to go on these tablets, I connected the dots and thought, hang on a minute, can I have you for 10 minutes, just 10 minutes? And she'd got young children. She said, what about the kids? Leave them on the landing. Let's have you lay down for 10 minutes on the therapy table. And intuitively, I knew it was her lymphatic system. So I did her a boost of her lymphatic system, and we include the spleen, that's a vital, and the thymus, vital part of it. I kept getting text messages from her that evening, the next day, the next week, weeks later, saying, oh my goodness, you were right. She says, I have no pain. And it just goes to show, and for the listeners, when we have these pains, whether it be in your joints, whether it be in the toes, fingers, wrists, it's knowing where your lymph nodes are, and then think about that pain and where it is if there's a lymph node in that area. And it normally is because it's stagnant, it's not performing the function. We need to get that.
And this is why anybody who's got issues, you still got to move, because you can only move your lymph around your body by moving. By contracting your muscles. Yeah. So if you've been in bed all day, or you've got to do some sort of exercise, try to help yourself, or get somebody to help to massage your legs, or just help you move that lymph, because it's got to come back to the place where it's going to get rid of the waste, and that's your urine and so on.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely,
it's got to move around.
Yeah. So some of the other techniques that we'd do with crystal surgery will be regulating the firing of the brain. We all require that. This is getting
I needed that.
Getting the neurons firing.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll almost hold the crystals in strategic places. And the best way I can describe it is like the brainwave going this way. If you've got a blockage, let's say on this side of the brain, well, this is your feminine side, this is your masculine. So it'll give me a good idea. If it's feminine, it's probably emotional related. And if it's on the left side, then it's masculine, organisational, analytical. Mm-hmm. You've got something you want to get done, but you're not getting it done. So I'll feel that blockage, and I'll scrape out that blockage. And if I hadn't done it, what would have happened is your brainwave will go to that blockage and come back. Go to that blockage, come back. And what you're often doing is overthinking that same thing, and you just can't get beyond that thing. So my job is to go in, clear it out. Your brainwave can now travel to one side to the other. What I'll feel is ping, pong, ping, pong, ping, pong, vision. And then the next place, and then the next place. I'll put it in strategic places on the brain. I'll then feel the pulse almost travel all the way down the body. I'll get a shake of the foot or the hand. Perfectly normal. That is your parasympathetic nervous system kicking in.
And that's what we want for everyone.
Absolutely. That'll be the breathing will slow down. You can breathe deeper, quieter, and a client will notice that. I'll notice, physically watching what's going on as I'm carrying out these techniques. So that's a good one for the headspace. And then the other one I mentioned, which was quietening of the mind. But another key one is we all have brain fog. In certain points in our life, we're going to have it more than at others. But perimenopause, menopause, absolutely. We all have brain fog. And this is actually a emotional wall in the brain. Shungite's a great one to come in and help with that. So you can clear out the brain fog, and then blasting white light, that is literally going to lift off this brain fog, which is an emotional wall in the brain. You can help someone, and I'm a great believer in you can restore a balance, but that's going to last longer if we do the background work, if we do the work to help sustain that balance. So, for example, I'm talking here about you can restore emotional balance for someone. If I was to draw out the pain first, and we hold that the back of our calves, down to our toes, and from the arms down through the fingers, if we can draw out that pain first, and then we have emotional blockages in the energy field, and for me, I'll use a crystal called, it's got dogtooth calcite on it, which will help shift off this crusty emotional blockages. They almost feel like, a dentist scraping off of plaque off of teeth, and it feels like that. So by removing these blockages, and the client will notice a feeling of release or an expansion happening as I clear that blockage. But then going in and restoring emotional balance after that, that's where you've said it earlier, where your legs go light and your whole body, you feel like you're removing a baggage. Because that expression, she's carrying an emotional baggage, it doesn't come from nowhere. Correct, that emotional baggage, when someone needs emotional balancing, the clear sign is this weight you're carrying here, and you'll feel it. Your shoulders will stoop. Your inability to be able to turn your neck freely. And it's because we're carrying that emotional baggage. Carrying out that technique and restoring emotional balance, you'll feel freer, lighter, your legs will feel lighter. And actually for those people that can see energy, where I've been, let's say, at an event, and I'm carrying out the technique and I've got people viewing.
I have seen you in an event, and you had 3 or 4 people right next to you that could not believe how much energy they could see that you were just bringing up out of that person. Yeah, yes. They were in shock.
Yeah. For those that can see energy, that they will see what takes place when you're restoring emotional balance. There's specific placings of what of the stones and what I'm doing, and it's almost like the energy body flips and goes back into the belly button. And of course, that is the area of where we carry a lot of emotions, and to restore that balance, it's huge for a person. They'll immediately, in fact, little children, as I'm carrying out that technique for them, they'll all of a sudden go, "Oh, I'm better," and want to get up off the therapy table. I'm not quite done yet, you know. So, yes, that's a huge one where we all do need that, and signs for that will be the heaviness around the head space. You can even feel like a pit, like a hollow. I get people say that a lot, that it feels like hollow, like a pit there, and that's your solar plexus, that's out of balance, and that can restoring emotional balance will also help with that as well. And you've got to think here is, when it's your solar plexus that's out of balance, the amount of organs behind that, it's your liver, it's your gallbladder, it's your pancreas, it's your spleen. There's a lot of organs that are there. You're going to have that sickly feeling as well.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, so in terms of physical symptoms of what people feel, then it's just feeling off balance. I've heard the expression, "I'm beside myself."
Oh, that's a big one. That's
and sluggish, as well as even your moods. I've known people to feel very low and depressed and come to you, and they've been uplifted by it.
Yeah. Let's talk about that one, because when people say they're beside themselves, they literally are. So best way I can describe this is, this hand's the physical body, and this is the energy body. It should sit like this.
Top of each other, kind of.
Yeah, it should fit like a glove.
In
it
alignment.
Should sit like that. Yeah. And when we go through trauma, road traffic accident, sudden shock, grief, anything that takes us out of balance and shocks us or really unsettles us, the energy body will move. And this is why they say they're beside the self, because it's their higher self saying they're beside the self, right? And so my job then is, I can bring the energy body back and reseat it, and I can do that, quite quickly. Will it stay there? No. It moved in the first place because you made it uninhabitable for it to stay there.
Okay.
Through that shock, you were hurt, there's pain, there's anger, there's something you're carrying. So my job is to clear out what doesn't serve you, and then I can reseat that energy body. And then you will have this feeling, as I'm carrying out that, this whole feeling of, I just feel completely together, myself again, right? Because, yeah.
And I've loved that feeling every time I come for a session.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And that one's where, if it's not beside yourself, it can hover above. And what will be going on here is, if we imagine that's the root chakra, that's the crown, it will be because they've got something that's making them feel unsafe, no security, they're emotionally imbalanced. And then what can happen is the lower chakras are out of balance, the energy body can then move up here. And I am seeing a lot more children that are going through that, where they've got extreme anxiety, they've got extreme fear, they're having nightmares, they're probably seeing energies. And it's tough, because unless they've got someone around them they can speak to about this, they can feel pretty isolated.
Yeah.
And there's not really a lot that I would do with a child, because if they're young, they've not been through the trauma as in an adult would have been through. So with a child, simply just by switching them from stress to relax, which is taking out the stress from the vagus nerve, and restoring emotional balance for them. Sometimes that can be just enough to bring them back and feel much more secure. If they're going through anxiety at the same time as well, absolutely, I will then carry out a nervous system detox, align, balance their chakras, and then do an anti-anxiety procedure, which calms the nerves and soothes them. And 9 times out of 10, after 1 or 2 sessions, anxiety is completely gone.
Yeah. And it brought something into my head. There was an interview that I'd seen, and I want to say Gabor Mate, Dr. Gabor Mate,
Gabriel Mate, yeah,
mentioning how it's not the trauma that we're having to deal with that stays with us, or the issue, the trauma itself, is the lack of support to deal with it, especially as children. If we didn't have the correct kind of parents that were there to help us through dealing with that trauma, that's probably why it got stuck in our bodies more. And as I grew older, I can see how that's important, because I've seen in my own life, in my son's life, in other people, and usually it's the lack of support around them. People that have the right kind of connective supports, or, you know, whether it's friends, family, doesn't matter. You don't have to choose your family. You can choose your friends, and choose them carefully, because they stick with you. And if you've got the right kind of people to support you through life, you no longer hold on to the difficulties the same way. And that's where it brings you to what you're doing. You're there to provide that support that potentially somebody else has not been able to provide.
Absolutely. And we can, there's many healing modalities out there now, and if you've not got that support around you, absolutely find a therapist, find a modality that resonates with you, where you feel that difference. And you should be able to feel that a difference after each session, and that's when you're coming back into balance. You're able to release and have some of these things that you're holding on to. It's helping you let go.
So we've got some time left, and I'd love for you to share some stories. So if you can pick 1 or 2 maybe of people that you've met through the charity, and explain what you've done with them. And I know you can think of one that I'm thinking of particular. And then pick some of the conditions or clients that you've worked with different situations, and explain what kind of work you've been able to achieve for them.
Okay. So children will always be the ones that, they stand out. You can just see that from how I'm smiling, because, they can't even put into words, but they know they don't feel right. And often enough, it's the parents that will say, what they're noticing, behaviours, etc. And then to get that feedback back from parents that they're more loving and they're more calmer and less tantrums, or, however, outbursts.
I think you told me about a little boy or a little girl, I can't remember, but a little child, about 6-7 years old, that just couldn't get himself under control at night time and had wee in bed.
Oh, right. Okay, yes.
So did you have somebody like that?
I have had a few like that, yes. And I think the one you're talking about,
nighttime incontinence can be a real problem.
Yeah, and that was restoring emotional balance for that child. And then the mother will report, actually, we're not having any more accidents anymore.
And isn't that wonderful? Because it's a hassle. It's not nice for the kid, but it's not nice for parents.
So if anybody out there, is struggling with that, and you don't even have to come in person. If a child is unable to come, because for me, it's a case of how long can they lay still for, right? And not every child can. So in those cases, we can do this over the phone, by video, Zoom, audio call, in the comfort of their own bed while the child's going to sleep. And I connect via the person's name, so I can carry that work out for them. That's one for children as well. And the other thing is as well, there's a period where I can recall. This was soon after lockdown. I was actually had a influx of young ladies, all between the ages of 16 and 22. And this was in a space of 2 weeks. I had about 11 young ladies. And I was like, what is going on here? All had the same symptoms. and it was anxiety, panic attacks, suicidal, self-harming, eating disorders. So, and they were really at a place where they desperately needed that help. And one of the things I noticed was they were bleeding for up to 9 weeks, and one of them up to 12 weeks. And this was their monthly cycle. Their monthlies would be bleeding for that period of time. And I was like, what is going on here? I did, through my own investigation, found that all of them had actually been vaccinated.
I
found that very, very interesting.
Which one?
I didn't go as far as which particular one. I just knew that they had a vaccination, and they all had the same symptoms. All of them had been vaccinated. Not a single one of them hadn't. So for me, it was now calming their nervous system, getting the chakras aligned, get them out of here, giving them a detox where we can remove any of these heavy metals that are not serving the purpose. So there's a what I call my gold standard detox, where I flush out the organs and the liver and remove any of these impurities. So and then restore emotional balance. And you know what's wonderful, Valerie, is when you hear that these people then after, and I'm not talking they have to come for years, some of them probably within 2 to 3 months we'd got them to a really good place. Most certainly they'd feel a difference after the first session than after the second. And then when they go on to do wonderful things, get the driving licence, get a job, and they were unable to do anything before, that to me is... It's rewarding.
It's very absolutely rewarding when you've helped somebody to function again.
Yeah. Other patterns I'll see. I mean, at that time, because we're talking lockdown, at that time, because of the waiting list for any regular surgeries, I was carrying out a lot of knee surgeries where we were able to remove the fluid off of knees, clear the inflammation.
Just to remind everybody, we're talking the difference between waiting lists for physical surgeries, because during the lockdown everybody was delayed, and what Kam does, which is surgery on the energy body.
Yes.
Still achieves very similar results, though. Yeah.
So I'll kind of... these are my go-to tools. These are called basic ones. And earlier when I was talking about people who can see energy, yes, the centre is an activation button. So when I press these, those that can see energy will see them glow up. So I literally cut open the energy body and then do the work that I need to into the energy field. Once I've completed, we put back together on energy body, and then I'll stitch it back together, where one will be releasing the loop, the other will be feeding it, and then you can stitch up the energy body. So some of these are my crystal tools, and that enable me to do that. So going back to that period, I was doing the knee surgery, crystal surgery, not actual surgery, but was able to avoid people having surgery, having the actual physical surgery. The other one is eye surgery, where the retina's detached from the eye and they've got fluid behind the eye. A couple of people have been not had to have surgery as a result of me removing and siphoning out the fluid.
I remember a story about a young man and avoiding having to get a stoma bag.
Oh, yes. So this was a 28-year-old young man. Said, I'd heard about you, can you help me please? And he was having to empty his bowels about 22 times in a day, bleeding down below. So I had to stay close to a toilet and unable to work. And I said surgery was coming up, and they wanted to take, after 5 years of him struggling, they wanted to take out his large intestine, give him a colostomy bag. And he didn't want that to be his life. So he says, please, can you help? I says, I'll do my absolute best. Obviously, the first thing I'm going to be checking is what his chakras are telling me. And in his case, he had no spin from his root, and his only chakra spinning was his throat, so he was able to speak, and his third eye and his crown. So I had to rebuild his chakras, which we can do. We can repair them. But when a rebuilding of the chakras required, it's almost like a cube, and you're weaving in scaffolding, and then giving it fusion to create the cells, and then a crystal which is called lightning struck quartz that will help with chi flow, putting the energy back into the cells. So rebuilt his chakras one session, then the next session, cells are, if you can imagine like a hexagonal, octagonal, doesn't matter which, but hexagonal, let's go with that. A bit like a spider's web first thing in the morning, and it's all beautiful, and then someone puts a stick in it and that spider's web collapses. So what we've now got here is collapsed cells look like that. So my job is to go in and
undo them.
Unclaps those collapsed cells and then restore the shape of them. It's a bit labour intensive because I'm going through the layers of your energy field, and if it's a large surface area. So for this young man, I rebuilt his chakras, I restored the shape of his cells and restored emotional balance, and I then didn't hear him. He had 2 long sessions and then I didn't hear. And I always say to my clients, please let me know how you are within 48 hours because that's how long it takes for the work to integrate. 8 weeks had gone by, my phone rings and he says, Kam, can you help? I said, yes, of course, what's going on? He says, well, the day I left your house, the bleeding stopped, all my symptoms fell away, I didn't go ahead with surgery, I don't have to have the colostomy bag. He says, my complexion cleared, all my family members, loved ones noticed that.
Wonderful.
And he says, and I made a complete recovery, which is fantastic.
That's amazing news. I have to say, that's amazing news. For somebody that I see people that have stomach bags and so on because of cancer.
Yes.
And seeing how much hassle it is to deal with one, I am so glad you've helped somebody to avoid that.
Well, he got his life back. So I says, but you called to ask for help. He says, well, after 5 years, I've now been able to get a full-time job. And he says, and they're giving me instructions in a team meeting. By the time I go back to my desk, I forgot what they told me. I said, hey, be kind to yourself.
That's called perimenopause too, but you know. You got to write things down, but yeah.
I said, be kind to yourself. You've been out of a job for 5 years. Your brain's not functioning in that way to absorb the information. Absolutely. Come along and we'll do some work on your headspace. Mm-hmm. So that's a wonderful story of what his life could have been to coming here and having crystal surgery and the difference that made to his life. So with these cases, what's important is if we look back at this young man's story, so he'd got 2 sisters, he'd got his mum, and he lost his father when he was about 12 years old.
That's young, isn't it?
Coming from a Asian family as well, and this would probably happen in any family, but he ultimately felt the pressure of the man in the house and that he must earn and having to watch his mum struggle to bring up the children. So this young man, safety, their security, their home life. So when safety, security, stability is threatened, that's your root chakra that's going to go off balance. Then the second, the emotional turmoil and the trauma of losing the father. So it shows up when I'm doing the work, it fits in with what they've gone through in their life.
So one of the stories you mentioned to me in the past was around couples or ladies, obviously, more especially, that were trying to get pregnant. Can you recall a couple of those and what the story was and how you've helped them?
Oh, absolutely. They're, you can see from my face again, it's wonderful when someone comes to you. They've been trying for many years to try and conceive. And the story's there when you lay them down and you look at the chakras and you're like, okay, you require X, Y, and Z. Now some, I've only had to do 1 session, 2 sessions for them just to get the chakras balanced. Some we might need to do some deeper work. And of course, that first session I'll always do the endocrine rebalance, because despite the fact that everything might look good on paper, NHS and what they're saying, however, they do need their endocrine system balance. And some of them, they needed their lymphatic, because there's a reading that they get when they're going through fertility that will say their immune system's not quite working as it should. And then when you work on them and then you don't hear from them, and then it's because they got pregnant. So we have many success stories as such. And I'd go as far as saying 4 out of 5, and the others have they're either expecting, so we'll wait till the baby comes along. So they're wonderful stories. So fertility, absolutely.
So you've definitely helped at least
absolutely.
4 new little ones come to this world with the work that you've done for them to get pregnant?
Do you know that the fifth one, and I always said it as 4 out of 5, but actually she came back 2 years later and wanted assistance with conceiving again. And I says, well, what happened to you? And I said, I didn't see you for 2 years. She said, oh, I've been raising my 18-month-old. Oh, hang on a minute. Those dates fit in. She says, yeah, after that second appointment, I fell pregnant. So I thought, okay, that brings that to 5 out of 5. So that's wonderful. So yes, crystal surgery absolutely can help with fertility. We've already talked about helping women with the menopause. So yes, certainly can help with that.
I mean, from everything that you've said and meeting the lady that wrote this book that you've got there as well, and you'll talk about the book in a minute as well, it's the techniques, they sound so woo-woo, you know, when you speak to somebody that doesn't understand how energy, and we are energy beings at the end of the day. If energy wasn't flowing through us, we'd be dead. So we've got to allow that energy to flow, and if it gets stagnant, it creates issues. And I wish this was more well known. And you're the only one in the UK, am I right?
Yes, so I went and did an intense apprenticeship for 3 months in America. Vivien and Schapera, who's written this book, and the information, and she'll go on to say it was downloaded to her. For anybody who wants to learn it, absolutely, in the UK, I have these books here, or you can get them direct from her website. People can learn this even if they're not healers. So having some background's obviously going to help with knowing some of the information, but it's not essential. And, you know, we were talking earlier about stories. So this is great for helping people when they come and they've got something that they know that's not right with them. They may not know what that is. But there's been cases where I've had to do emergency crystal surgery. I can remember a time when I got a call. In fact, before I got the call, I'd eaten, I was resting in the middle of the day, and I just had an inner knowing, your intuition, your team of light, however we choose to see this, but knowing that I needed to go and rest. I'm like, okay, and if I get this inner knowing 3 times, that's it. I will go and do what I'm instructed to do. So I was told to go and lay down and rest, so I did. Within half an hour, I get a phone call, and it's a friend, and she said, Kam, my father's been involved in a road traffic accident, and he's got a bleed on the brain. They're rushing him to the Queen's Medical Hospital. That's a brain surgery local hospital in Nottingham to us. And that's when you know, okay, that means brain surgery. And I always say, because the immediate family member is emotionally connected, I'd prefer to speak to, so a mutual friend was speaking to me and giving me the information, because what's important for me is I need all the vitals. I need to know what's going on. Mm-hmm. So I'm already in the healing room, and I can remember the friend saying, wow, that was quick. I says, I know, I was pre-warned, something was coming along. So anyway, so I'm looking at this, working on the brain, and I can feel swelling on one side, a lot of swelling. And automatically, you'd probably think that's where the injury is. But my intuition was telling me, no, it's on the other side, the left side. I can recall a crystal actually saying, hey, me here, I'll help. And I'm like, okay, what am I doing with you? And I just kept getting this, plug it. And I'm like, well, what do you mean plug it? And then I see an image on my mind screen. And I can see that I've got to do some stitching. So I'm stitching. And then I got it. I was like making a gauze, like a mesh, to go over the brain. Okay. Nothing needed to be removed, nothing needed to be cut. I just needed to make a mesh to stop the bleed. And then all of a sudden I got a knowing that, okay, now I can siphon off the excess fluid on the other side. So I actually did the surgery on the other side, siphoned off the fluid off the other. And then this knowing I got was, oh, his blood pressure's going to drop. So I was then able to say to the friend on the phone, his blood pressure's going to drop. So that's not anything to be alarmed of. It's because I've stopped the leak, I've plugged it, I've put a mesh over it, so his blood pressure will drop. And the friend goes, oh my goodness, and I could hear it in the background, the machine going bleep, where his blood pressure had dropped, and they were rushing to him to see what's now changed, what's going on. Now, in this particular case, the man, it was a couple of days later, he was, they were saying he's doing well. He didn't have to have brain surgery, but he was doing strange things like the actions one would do when going to an ATM machine and withdrawing money.
Okay. That is
It's a
odd.
brain injury, so his cognitive abilities were impacted. So I was able to say at that point, we can work on that later, but just not yet. His brain's still got a lot of swelling. We must deal with the inflammation first. So we've done the surgery, doing the inflammation. It's the aftercare and the techniques that will then follow to help support him through that. Dealing with the brain waves and the cognitive function of his brain can be done a bit later on when the inflammation's gone down. Now, this man must have stayed in hospital for 6 weeks, had to have no surgery. They had to do nothing to his brain. They just couldn't understand how, and in some cases say it can repair itself, which is what they were able to say to him.
Of course they would, yeah.
But he made a complete recovery.
But that's amazing, because you don't want anybody to get into your brain. You never know. It's such a dangerous, difficult area to operate on.
Yeah.
So you've helped people get pregnant, you've helped a young man not have a stomach bag, you've helped this gentleman with his brain, and I know there's many, many, many more.
Even from a scald, these new water machines we now get, and the water can be really boiling hot from there.
Oh, yeah.
And, to see a big blister on a man's hand, and he only came to pop by for something else and says, have you seen what I've done here? Can you just give it some healing energy? I said, I can do better than that. We can heal that so you actually have no scarring. It will heal quicker. And he was absolutely amazed that, he'd had it for a week. And then the few days I worked on it, how it had just gone down. And his hand healed with no scarring whatsoever.
That's good.
And this is the thing with scarring, Val, is that even ladies who have pain from having, let's say, a C-section, not just with a C-section, but with any scarring, when scar tissue is cut and then it's put back together, it's almost like it's put back together like that. But ultimately, when scar tissue and how it should heal should be like this, so it's stronger. So absolutely, we can, with crystal surgery, I can work in your energy field, restore the shape of the cells so that they can heal stronger. By doing the work in the energy field, it integrates into the physical, and that's how you can feel then the differences in the physical.
Is that a technique you've used for some of the cancer patients that you've seen through the charity?
Yes, absolutely, because some of the ladies, if they've had
breast cancer surgery,
surgery or a reconstruction, it's how that tissue then heals, and it can leave a tough area on the skin, which can then cause pain. So that's what I'll do, is unclap those cells and then restore the shape of them so that they can heal very well. But for the cancer patients, the key things we've got to remember is that they're endocrine, lymphatic, and then let me restore emotional balance. If that's all I can do for them, then those three are going to make a difference for them. And then if they choose to come along for further sessions, that's absolutely fine. But when we talk about those systems, those for the cancer patients or anybody that's got lymphatic issues or immune system, those pains I talked about earlier, the three systems that we should all make sure that are in check is our endocrine system. That's all your glands, that's your hormones. Then your lymphatic system, absolutely, that's got to take the waste out of the body. And then, of course, it's your nervous system. They're the three biggest, systems in the body that we must make sure that they are in check and working and functioning as well as they can be. If we ignore those and leave them, then disease is going to settle within the body.
Yeah, and that's dis-ease. We're not talking about a disease in terms of clinical term. We're talking about the fact that you're not going to be at ease with yourself.
Absolutely.
It starts very subtly and then it will escalate and escalate.
Yes.
So by the time somebody gets to have a long-term chronic condition, something's been going on energetically for a long time. For a long
Absolutely.
time.
And that energetic, what's been going on for a long time, this is where, when we're healthy, we'll go to the gym, we'll think about the foods we're eating these days. But hang on a minute, what about the rest of your bodies? The emotional, mental, spiritual body, the energetic cleanse. And these are the things that if we can have an energetic cleanse, we can help avoid getting ourselves to that place in the first place. Because when you're coming to me for a detox, cleanse and clear, I'm going to check your chakras are doing well. We have what's called our own anger in our energy field. We'll hold anger in the organs, in the liver for starters, but then we have our own anger in the energy field. And for me, it feels like I'm lifting off something as light as hair. So if we can imagine if this was hair that was in a duct blowing out warm air, it's not going to function as efficiently. Whereas if the hair wasn't there, you've got a good flow of energy. So for me, it feels like this hair, but it has such a zing as you're removing it. As light as anything, but has a charge. So we can have that in our energy field around here. I often see it at like round the knees. And what this is telling me is that that individual is angry about something where they should have taken steps to move forward in a direction in their life, but probably had to compromise or didn't, but didn't come to terms with it and let it go. So they're holding on to that anger when it's round there. That will probably develop in knee issues later on in life. The other anger we have is not our own. This is accumulated, projected anger.
Which is why I had last time.
Yes. So the other anger, this accumulated, projected anger, it comes in and it will sit, to me, it feels like netting or webbing over the chakras. So if you remember, I said the chakras spin in a clockwise direction. They're like these cogs. And if you've got this netting or webbing, it can really slow down the spinning of those chakras. So you're not functioning as well as they could be functioning. So I will use the tool, which I haven't brought in with me today, but I'll just demonstrate with this one. I will go in and literally grab hold of that netting.
Yes, I remember you kind of screwing into that area. And at that point, I wasn't feeling anything. But when you started pulling, oh my goodness, I could feel this thing coming out. You weren't even touching me. That's the amazing thing, how you can just feel it. I could just feel this. It's like my energy was being dragged away, but I knew it was the negative side. I knew it was stuck. And I could feel, it just felt so much lighter straight away after that.
And that's the key thing. Absolutely. You will acknowledge and realise and feel that difference in that release of your tissue in your cells. And if you leave this projected anger within you, it will go deeper into your tissues and into your organs. And we can ask, well, what is this accumulated projected anger? It's when others have, the lowest vibration will be jealousy, envy. But if someone's just projecting anger at you.
I knew why. I had an argument with somebody, so I knew why it was there. But,
Yes, yeah. And so, yes, it is important that we take that off of all the chakras and throughout the energy field.
This is why we need to be careful who we hang out with and what kind of relationship we've got with people around us. Because if you are in a relationship where you're regularly arguing with your partner, for example, imagine the amount of projected anger you've got on you. And of course, that's going to slow you down. It's going to be sluggish and
it's going to build up and build up. And on the plus side, when we know what accumulated projected anger is, then we're less likely to project that onto others when things don't go the way we may want them to.
Oh, yeah, I don't experience... I do experience anger, but I don't project it at them. I'm just angry at the situation. I don't believe I'm able to do anything to them. Yeah. But I let it go now. I just let it go anyway.
Yes. And then the other things during a cleanse and a clear, we've probably all heard of cording. And we're like, well, what is cording? Cording's real. You've got to remember, how am I able to do this work? Not just me, but how are we healers able to do this kind of work? And it's because we acknowledge the space in between
the
things.
Energy exchange?
The space in between, for example, so the etheric web. It's we can work across the etheric web. That's how we can heal someone from being here to the other side of the world. And you don't even have to be a healer to know that. You can be thinking of someone across the other side of the world, and then all of a sudden they'll phone you, and it's because they picked up that thought across the etheric web. So the cording is very real. Imagine it like with everybody you've met in your life, whether it be associate, colleague, neighbour, family, romantic ship, friendship, any ship. We form these invisible telephone wires between each person. The stronger the connection, or the more intimate that connection with the person, the stronger that invisible telephone wire between two people will be. Even if these people have gone out of your life, every time they think of you, you'll get a pull on that cord. This stuff drains our energy. It doesn't leave us full for ourselves. It doesn't leave us energetically cleansed, especially when those cords no longer serve our highest good. So any of what we remove is what doesn't serve your highest good. And when we do that, and the crystals are shaped as tools that allow me to pull those out. If anybody says to cut cords, well, cords are like roots. They'll come back together. Roots come back together. Cords should be pulled out safely with the plug, the hook, the sucker, however that may be, and then transmuted to light. What I will tend to do is I'll use my crystal bowl, and anything I remove goes into the bowl and gets transmuted to white light. And often, as I'm removing them, if it's a deep cord, sometimes the client will have an image of the person, or see the back of the image of that person, and that's a good sign. That's off the go, right? Because we want to wish everybody well, but we don't want anybody to slow down our energetic field as a result of things past, right? So cording is real, and there's quite a few different types of cording that we remove to help cleanse and clear people. So for healthy people, going back to that, absolutely, they should go in for a regular check of a cleanse, clear, detox, get your energy flowing, and absolutely ensure your chakras are balanced so that you can function as best as you can.
Good. So Kam, I hope people understand now how amazing crystal surgery can be for themselves and their loved ones. How can people get hold of you? Where can they find you?
I'm on all social media platforms as Crystal Healing Works UK. You can direct message me off the social medias. I'm online website. So for booking of the appointments, it's either in person, based here in Leicestershire, UK. And if you're anywhere else, you can still benefit from crystal surgery. I do that as remote healing, so by video, Zoom or audio, whichever you prefer, or even WhatsApp, FaceTime, whichever suits. Do you even have to be on the phone? No. Once you've given permission and your consent to go ahead, it's your name are required to connect to your energy field to carry out the healing. And more recently, to be able to assist as many as I can, I've started 3 months ago group healing, which I do every other Tuesday evening at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
And you can ask for the details of the link, and I have themes that I'll do every fortnight, so you can choose which session you want to be part of, and that's a fantastic, more affordable and reachable way for many, because it's done as part of a group collective healing.
And then you've got this lovely book here. There's a reason you brought this book here.
Yes.
Tell us more about what you're doing with that.
Okay, so this book, as I say, it's not my book, but it's Vivien, who I learned crystal surgery from. So this complete guide to crystal surgery by Vivien Schapera. I am here to teach, to get as many people as I can to at least learn how to help and assist your own chakras. Do you have to be a healer? No. I'm here to teach this, so I have recently started taking on students so that you can learn crystal surgery. And even if you don't want to learn crystal surgery in its full context the way I have, you can learn elements of it or techniques that you can incorporate into your own healing practice. And I think that will benefit quite a lot of other healers as well.
Great tools and techniques, definitely.
Yes.
Especially if you're in tune with crystals already. If you already do Reiki with crystals and so on, that would be a great complement as well.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Kam, for your time today. It's been lovely talking to you again.
Thank you, Val. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And as I'll always say, the work you do for the charity Together Against Cancer and what you do there, it's absolutely amazing. And actually, you extend it to far beyond Together Against Cancer, because you're a great person who networks within the community and is always helping people.
We want to reach as many people as possible, and not just to support people with cancer, support with people with longer term conditions as well.
Yes.
But for us, the piece that's important is the education side. The support on the therapies, obviously, is needed when you're in the thick of going through your treatments and so on. But it's the educational side on how to manage your mindset, your stress levels, your nutrition, and turning your life around, because you become a new person. You're not the same person once you've had a cancer diagnosis. So it's for them to just learn how to become their new self and to thrive after that. That's what we want to see. People thrive. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Kam.
Thank you, Val. Thank you.